So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. That's right, it's time for Coffee Talk, where we will be having a discussion about what is going on in the world today, taking a look at snippets from the news that we will read through and talk about. And of course, again, this is Coffee Talk, and that is at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube or at Prepper University on YouTube, simultaneously broadcasting on both channels Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most of the time, with tomorrow being an exception, and I'll explain that in a minute. I brought this up yesterday, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, aka Twitter, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Being joined today by Dusty, the only feline in the room, sitting in the chair behind me, of course. There she is, fast asleep. Wish I was taking a nap. It's been a long week. It's been a long few months, actually. But again, back to the point, tomorrow the broadcast will be at a different time. It'll probably be either at 10 or 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the morning, because I do have a dental appointment tomorrow, which I am not looking forward to because I never did have that root canal. It's just not in the budget, unfortunately. I'll go ahead and start taking a look at who is joining us here today on the live portion. I do try to read through as many comments as I reasonably can, time permitting. I see Brian has joined us here today. Boogers is here. D-Lo. Paul. Sven is here. He wants us to know the tail is off the mouse. Is it now? Is it now? Dusty must have it. Helter is here. Thanks for joining us here today. This afternoon. It's afternoon where I am. It may be different wherever you are. And of course, there's additional confusion because of daylight savings time. And we got some of that yesterday from people who were like, what, you're on? Yes, unfortunately, because not everybody does daylight savings time. No, they don't. It's really pointless anyways. Dragon is here. Urban Angst is here today. I'd like to see them completely do away with daylight savings time. It serves no actual purpose that makes any sense. One of the excuses they use for it is they say, oh, it's for the farmers. You know, if you're working on a privately owned independent farm, you're going to get up with the sun anyway, no matter what time it is. So that's just what you do. That's just what you do. I mean, seriously, my wife and I are up at 5:30 every morning, As we get ready to dive in, take a look at what's going on the news today. Some things you may have known about, some things maybe not. Like I'm sure a lot of people were not aware about Kamala Harris not actually being at the Capitol during the January 6th event, which was only just revealed and suppressed in the news last week. Urban says to this day, Saskatchewan refuses to do daylight savings, which blows the farmer theory. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if you're dedicated, you have your own private family farm, you're going to get up in the morning. it doesn't matter what time they tell you it is. That's just the way it is. And Paul says you get up before the sun is out to do all the other jobs. Yeah, exactly. You get cracking, basically. And Brian says they were curious about the best way to reach out or contact me. Gee, I don't know. Actually, there should be. Isn't there contact information in the description box? Or if you're on X, can you private message Brian? I'm not sure. Or do you have contact information on your YouTube channel? We'll figure something out. Let me think about it for a minute. But first article up. Oh God, if I can get it to open. We're doing this again. Stream is a little bit funny with this. Come on now. Here we are. BBC News. Boeing whistleblower found dead in the United States. Yeah. Can't talk about anything. Boeing whistleblower found dead. And I read this article, blurb in the news, thought it was suspicious. And you'll see why as we dig into this. A former Boeing employee known for raising concerns about the firm's production standards has been found dead in the United States. John Barnett had worked for Boeing for 32 years until his retirement in 2017. In the days before his death, he had been giving evidence in a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. Boeing said it was saddened to hear Mr. Barnett's passing. Really, I'm sure they are. The Charleston County coroner confirmed his death to the BBC on Monday. It said the 62-year-old had died from self-inflicted gunshot wounds on March 9th, and police are investigating. Yeah, so he shot himself. Sure he did. I get suspicious anytime anybody who's any kind of whistleblower for against any politician or government agency or any major corporation, especially corporations that have military ties like Boeing, suddenly decides to commit suicide. Mr. Barnett had worked for the U.S. plane giant for 32 years until his retirement in 2017 on health grounds. From 2010, he worked as a quality manager at the North Charleston plant making the 787 Dreamliner. In 2019, Barnett told the BBC that under pressure, workers have been deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. He also said he uncovered serious problems with oxygen systems, which could mean 1 in 4 breathing masks would not work in an emergency. He said soon after starting work in South Carolina, he'd become concerned that the push to get new aircraft built meant the assembly process was rushed and safety was compromised, something that the company denied. He later told BBC workers had failed to follow procedures intended to track components through the factory, allowing defective components to go missing. He said in some cases, substandard parts had even been removed from scrap bins and fitted to planes that were being built to prevent delays on production. Unbelievable. He claimed that tests on emergency oxygen systems due to being fitted in the 787 showed a failure rate of 25%. That's pretty good. Unbelievable. Let me catch up some of the comments here. Urban says apparently Barnett has already done 1 day of testimony and was scheduled for a second day of testimony where evidence would be presented too. On that day, no one could reach him and he was dead. Yeah. And Flukeman says not everyone gets the Aaron Brockovich happy ending. No, yeah, exactly. Sven says it would not matter if the DEI numbers were hit. Dragon says we've officially entered the beginning of corporate murder plots leading to the cyberpunk dystopian future we've all feared. It started with Boeing. Oh, I'm sure it goes back further than that. And Booger says self-inflicted to the back of his head, like the Billary friend. Yeah, like the Clinton. I shot myself in the back of the head twice. And you can't find the gun. Suicide. That's how it works. Helter says, yeah, not suspicious at all that he killed himself mid-deposition. Meanwhile, Boeing higher-ups will claim that we have no idea why our employee doesn't want to flag safety issues. Exactly. Doesn't pay to be a whistleblower. Doesn't. I've talked about that many, many times. Been a whistleblower myself. You know what happens? You lose your job. You lose your job, and then odds are you'll never work in that profession again because you're the guy that talks. Nobody wants you. And when you're up at this level, apparently, suicide is not outside the realm of possibility. Oh my God. I thought this was just very suspicious. Wanted to share this. This is one of those stories, again, flying under the radar. You may not have seen this. People may not have seen this and thought it was important to share. Thought it was important to share. Yeah, it doesn't pay to be a whistleblower. Look how they do you. Look what happens. Look how they treat you. Can't trust anybody. Can't trust anybody. As we shift around here. So yeah, and they always tell you, "Oh, be transparent. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to be a whistleblower. We want you to come forward. We want to hear your opinions. We want to do a better job." Yeah, sure you do. Sure you do. You can trust that. And look what happens. Like I said, at the very best, at the very least, rather, you'll get ostracized at work. No one will want to talk to you or be around you. You'll get reassigned. You'll probably lose your job. And then, like I said, you may never work in that field again. They may throw you out. They may throw you out of your job. And then what are you going to do? Then what are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? But that's how they do you. Can't trust anybody. Especially not these companies. As we shift around here, get ready to open up the next story. I'll close that out. And we'll take a look at what's going on in the UK. So I catch up a couple of comments here, and this is going to be a Telegraph article. This Fluke Man says, should authorities automatically provide protection for whistleblowers? I guess it depends on who you're whistleblowing on. You remember they buried somebody in the CIA just recently. I read that whistleblower article about a month ago. Can you trust them? And New York says, can't trust anybody for real. Indeed. And then Urban said, without the spoiler, recall what happens to the lawyer whistleblower in the film Michael Clayton. So here we go. Telegraph article, just in case you thought this was just going on in America. Caribbean countries say that the UK must pay reparations for indentured labor. And this guy's got a sign here, and he says, we demand apologies and reparations. While they're carrying a variety of flags here. It's kind of funny, too, how a lot of these people, they consider Africa like a country rather than a continent. You ever notice that? They don't know where they're from. They don't know what their heritage is. Anyways, Caribbean nations are set to demand that Britain make reparations for indentured labor in addition to slavery in a major expansion of the campaign to address colonialism. Countries that have pushed for payments on slavery are now planning to seek reparative justice surrounding the 500,000 indentured workers shipped from India to work on sugar plantations after African slaves were freed. Under the indenture system, workers agreed to work for a set number of years in exchange for a payoff at the end, such as land or a return passage to their place of origin, but most never returned after being duped into their bonded labor. What they don't mention here is that most indentured servants were people that, not that it's necessarily fair, but people that were arrested for a variety of crimes, including the inability to pay debts, and debt debt indenturing is something I certainly don't agree with, but you see my point. They glazed over that part. Exporting indentured labor to the Caribbean was pioneered by Sir John Gladstone, a 19th century landowner in British Guinea and father of William Gladstone, who would become Prime Minister. Guyana, as it has been known since independence in 1966, received the most indentured laborers of any Caribbean colony, and its leaders are in favor of fresh action to secure reparations. So you took over the island, you live there now. It's your own country now, but you want reparations. Okay. Where are we here? President Mohammed Ifran Ali told the Telegraph all those nations that abominable systems need to do the morally right thing and to accept their complicity in historical wrongs. He said leaders were prepared to examine the issues of the atrocities committed under Indian indentured immigration. How far back can you possibly go? Every country and every people group has been done wrong by virtually everybody at some point. There's no way you could ever really fix any of this. And the more you dig into this, the more you go down that road, the more you give in, the more everybody wants. You'll never satisfy them. Never. But yeah, we're not just seeing this in the United States. Here you go. So catching up a couple of comments here. Flukeman says, if the government can make January 6th the biggest threat to American democracy, then it shouldn't be a problem to make whistleblowers to be the good guys. And Urban says, I demand reparations for every crappy job I had as a young person. Yeah, me too. And Helter says the UK paid plenty of reparations in the form of welfare and foreign aid. You can't tell them that because you gave this to them and they want more. They want more. It's never enough. Never enough. And Puck says a one-way ticket to your choice of African nations should be reparations enough. They didn't want to go back. They stayed there, and now they're complaining about it. Booger says the reparations thing aggravates me to no end. If they are African descent, why not go after the tribes that took them as slaves to sell as slaves instead of going after the second owners? And that's a good point. Raccoon has joined us here today. Glad you could make it. Dragon says everyone wants a free lunch these days for something their ancestors suffered. Yeah. And that's what Rob Snyder said, if I can quote him correctly here. Rob Snyder, formerly of Saturday Night Live, back when they were still kind of funny. And he was talking about the reparations examinations that were going on. Let me put all people's comment up here. In California. And he says, so people who were never slaves in a state that never had slavery want slavery reparations. That's like a man having to pay child support for a child that isn't his from a woman that he never slept with. He didn't say slept with. He said something more vulgar, but you get the point. You get the idea. And Urban says in China, one way to increase your social score is to volunteer to do free labor for the state. Yeah. Well, they do that here too. It's called City Year. And I never have been able to figure out what the hell they actually do. Because I used to see them even when I was a kid in the 80s. You saw City Year people because they wore the jackets. Because if you had the red jacket on that said City Year, you could get on and off all the transportation for free. Buses, trains, whatever, you could get on for free. And I was like, who are these people? What do they do? And I've seen advertisements for City Year even today. And it's a volunteer program involving college students. I still don't know what they do. And I've looked at their website. What the hell does City Year do? Anybody have a clue? I can't figure it out. Something about motivation and some bullshit. Who are these people? Should they be wearing armbands? Brian says that they're amused by how January 6th is liberals' only weapon against Republicans. And Flukeman says paying reparations is a sign of weakness. Same reason you don't negotiate with terrorists. And all people, again here, Caribbean and African migrants literally arrived to the U.S. with a list of angry demands for reparations, affirmative action, DEI, etc. And literal slave descendants protest that practice. And yeah, that's pretty much true because they know they can get something versus people that actually earned it. So, time to jump to DC. We're going to go to the District of Columbia and we're going to talk about sweet old Uncle Joe. Everybody's favorite uncle, that guy. Reliable and honest, trustworthy, and sharp as a tack, Uncle Joe. Newsweek article: Biden wants to give other countries $1 billion to tackle the migrant crisis. Okay, so you can't just sign an executive order to reverse the executive order that you put in place originally that created this problem. You can't just undo it and let the people at the border do their job. You want to pay other countries to handle the problem. I see. All right, that makes perfect sense. President Joe Biden's administration has proposed spending billions of dollars on border security, including $1 billion to address the root cause of migration from Central America. Biden has taken heat throughout his first term. I like how they point that out, his first term, as if there's going to be a second one. Time will tell for the annual increase in border crossings, as he is likely to once again face off against Donald Trump. In the presidential election this November, illegal immigration has become the top issue for many Republicans across the country, according to various polling. Following silence on the death of 22-year-old Augusta University nursing student Larkin Riley, which we did talk about, allegedly committed by illegal immigrant Jose Ibarra. He did it. Biden mentioned the victim during Thursday's State of the Union address. He referred to Ibarra as an illegal, which drew consternation from some Democrats. The president later regretted the terminology, saying that he rather should have used the word undocumented. Wow, puppet masters didn't like him saying illegal. The president proposed 2025 fiscal year budget requests Congress approval for $405 million to hire 1,300 more federal border patrol agents, $239 million to hire 1,000 additional U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers to stop fentanyl and other contraband from entering the U.S., funding to keep U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, 34,000 existing detention beds, $1 billion for aid to Central America, and nearly $1 billion to address the backlog of nearly 2.4 million pending cases in the U.S. immigration courts. It also proposes $755 million to hire an additional 1,600 asylum officers to facilitate timely immigration cases, dispositions, $100 million for Homeland Security investigation, and on and on and on. And there's just money, 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 money. 849 million, 4 billion, 75 million, 35 million, 25 million. The list just keeps going. Another 75 million, another 25 down here. Jesus. As opposed to just letting the people that are already there actually do the job. Anybody think of that? How about that? How about we let the people that are already there do the job, since essentially the problem stems from the fact that you're not allowing them to do their job. You're not allowing them to do their job. That's the basic issue. That's the major problem. What do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? This is our reality right now. So he wants to throw all this money all over the place. And he wants to give money to foreign entities. What are they supposed to do? They don't have any respect for him anyways. They're just going to take his money and still let people travel through their countries. Instead of doing what we used to do and put them back where they came from till they get the message and stop coming. And then we'll be down to 800 encounters a day instead of 8,000. And that's what Helter says. It would be cheaper if Biden deported the illegals. It would be cheaper, period. And that's what should be done. It's not going to happen. I don't know. If Trump gets in office, he's going to take a swing at it. But that's what we used to do. Charter flights and charter buses to send them either back to South America or back to wherever they came from. Throw them out. And it's like, oh yeah, those tickets are expensive. Yeah, but it's cheaper than this. It's cheaper than paying for all of their living expenses, paying for them to be sheltered, paying for their food, their clothing, their health, their medicine, their school. And then they don't appreciate any of it anyway. The majority of them don't. Again, I mean, there's a handful that truly are seeking asylum, and there's a handful that really do want to be part of the United States and really do want to contribute. But the majority of them right now don't. I don't know what the hell they're doing here except to destroy us. Puck says Democrats are mad about calling a murderer an illegal, not about their policy getting people killed. Good point. That is a very good point and very true. Urban says border treason is policy. Exactly. And Paul says he's asking for $6.7 trillion. Oh, and then Brian says, is it really even illegal immigration at this point? I don't know. Well, it's technically not illegal if he made it legal for them to come into the country unvetted. Although that is a violation of other tenets, the other laws that are on the books. So he's breaking his own rules by making his own rules, but his rules are law since they were executive orders. And, that's a whole big can of worms that needs to be unraveled, unfortunately, and nobody's willing to do it. And Cruising says, vote Cruising 28. I'll be running on the platform of Screw the Fence. We're putting in a moat and landmines. Hey, some countries do that. Some countries, they have minefields and machine gun nests. And guess what? No one crosses their borders. Fluke Man said it'd be easier, cheaper, convenient, etc. And if they send Biden to an old folks home, he's in one. He's getting the best care of anybody. Monkey said if Trump somehow loses this election, legally or illegally, then there's no hope. Yeah, well, there's always hope. Or as they used to say, shit in one hand and wish in the other and see which one fills up first. Ryan, here's an email for you. If you're still here, I think you're still here. Because people wade in and out. But Biden has other solutions. Biden has other solutions. They all involve your tax money. And he wants Congress to take responsibility for it. As you will see here in a Fox News article, because we're still talking about Sleepy Joe. If it comes up any second now. Come on, Restream. Here it comes. Fox News, Biden says he won't take executive action to secure the border, and he wants Congress to find a fix. Because, yeah, that's all it would take is for him to reverse his executive order that hinders Border Patrol agents from doing their job. That's all it would be. That's all it would take. That's all he would have to do. Rescind the previous order. We're shutting this one off. Executive order would do it. No, it's Congress's problem. President Biden said he doesn't plan on taking executive action to address the record numbers of migrants coming into the United States through the southern border after indicating that he might following failed efforts to find a legislative fix. Biden was asked Monday about the possibility of unilaterally adding safeguards to the U.S.-Mexico border, a move that would be reminiscent of controversial actions taken by former President Trump when he took office. Nothing controversial about having a wall put up. A lot of countries do that. Nobody's given Egypt a hard time about putting up a wall between them and so-called Palestine. I'm counting on the border action happening by itself. Them passing it. Oh, it's a miracle. The border will just solve its own problem. I'm counting on the border action happening by itself. That's the quote of the year right there. Pixie dust. The tooth fairy's going to fix it, he told reporters on Air Force One after visiting New Hampshire, referring to a legislative fix to the problem. Biden appeared to be considering executive action to tackle the ongoing border crisis after a bipartisan Senate bill failed to gather the proper support. Nobody should sign that mess. An administration source previously told Fox News that the president was considering executive action to restrict the ability of migrants to claim asylum, but that is one of several plans being looked at. On Monday, when a reporter reminded Biden that Congress can't come to a bipartisan agreement, he said, well, they haven't yet. They haven't yet. I'm helping them. What are you helping them do, Biden? How's he helping? They haven't yet, but he's helping them. Helping them to do what? I don't understand. Puck says Biden belongs in prison. Won't happen. Although it's not outside the realm of possibility to put someone that old in prison. They did it to Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, barely able to walk, blind, senile, barely able to tolerate being in court because he hardly knew where he was. They locked him up. They put him in prison. Puck says, did anyone see the Biden rally near Atlanta? Hilarious. Some hippie started hollering at Joe, maybe 24 people there. Yeah. And that, no, not that. I'm thinking of the State of the Union address because that veteran's father got arrested for heckling because he was mad about his son getting blown up during the evacuation of Afghanistan. And they put him in jail, by the way. Cruising says, speaking of taxes, there was a change by Biden that's hitting this year. Teachers, cops, etc. can't write off their insurance as pre-tax income anymore. So now I'm getting taxed on money I don't get. Wow. That's dirty. That's dirty and underhanded. Biden has to use the handicap access in Air Force One. Do they have one? He can trip his way up the stairs. You've seen him. And Urban says, what's happening to Biden reminds me of an Oscar Wilde book called The Picture of Dorian Gray, but for Biden, it's in reverse. Yeah, Oscar Wilde's Picture of Dorian Gray. And you knew it said picture because sometimes people mistake it and they say portrait of Dorian Gray. It is actually Picture of Dorian Gray. Unbelievable. And Monkey says, again, Biden proposes this media is quiet and all genius. Dragon says Biden created the problem and he has blamed the problem on others, yet he continues to lie and pretend that he would fix problems if we vote for him again. It worked for Obama. Who remembers Obama's second run for presidency and how the campaigning for that went? Because he did basically nothing in his first term. And when he ran for president the second term, he literally, I wish I could find it because I've looked for it, because I was watching him campaigning, said, give me another chance. To do what? Nothing? You did nothing the first time around. You got nothing accomplished. And now you literally are saying, give me another chance. I'm pretty sure I'm quoting him. because that just struck me at the time. I'm like, are you freaking serious? Give you another chance. And they did. They did. He won again. I'm like, oh my God. You've got to be kidding. Oh no. Monkey says Trump does the same thing he did and he's a dictator. Yeah, that's what they do. Sven says there's no excuse for voting Democrat if you work for a living and all people has some choice things to say about Oscar Wilde. Well, you know, he was arrested in England and he for his shall we say sexual practices, and I believe did he spend time in prison? I want to say he got jail time because they used to put you in jail for that, and he then left the UK and moved to the United States. Am I thinking of the right author? All people. Monkey says, while the heckler got jailed and it's no problem if Biden got heckled, but if Trump did the same thing, media would be reeling about it. Trump being a dictator to that of Putin and violating the First Amendment. Yeah, they arrested that guy. They put him in jail. They're charging him for heckling at that, and I get it. I mean, he's upset because that evacuation was a disaster, and he his son was killed. His son was blown up at that airport. And he was mad. He was like, you botched that. My kid died. He had a reason to be upset. Maybe not screaming out there. You know, it's enough to be like, sir, you need to come on because we need to do this and escort him out. You didn't have to arrest him. I thought that was pretty dirty. Lieutenant Roltier says, Obama, if I pronounce that right, Roltier, Obama only got the presidency because he was black. Then the Democrats got pissy because Trump won instead of Hillary to be the first woman president. Well, that's your diversity hire. And Lieutenant also says, can't say this is a racist country when Obama got 2 terms. Yes, he did. And it makes me think of Boondocks. Boondocks, which was a great animated show, because they said a lot of things that needed to be said that you can't really say publicly or couldn't say publicly. And he was really addressing that at the so-called black community, even though the majority of people who watched it weren't. But it makes me think of when Obama got elected and they had that episode and they were interviewing the kid, and I can't think of the kid's name off the top of my head, but he was being asked, how do you feel now that everything's going to get better since Obama's been elected? And he's like, what makes you think anything's going to change? Oh, I know it. What makes you think anything's going to change? Helter says today's generation of Democrats are weak, milk toasty shadow of their more altruistic Democrat predecessors. The old school Dems actually worked hard to fight for the little guy. I love the milk toast term, making it old school. And the lieutenant says that Boondocks was a funny cartoon. Yeah, and like I said, it was refreshing at times because they said things that you can't say. I can't say a lot of that stuff. I got to be careful. Cruising says Boondocks was priceless. Boondocks was taken off of the air because of the things that they said about BET. Because BET was parented with another company that that was connected to, was it on Comedy Central? They're all under the same umbrella. And after he hit or took jabs at BET one too many times, they were finagled into not continuing that contract. Dude was really pissed about that. But he told the truth about BET. One of my favorite bits is the Uncle Ruckus show, and the executive from BET trying to convince him to come back. And he was like, listen, I hate black people. Why do you think I work for BET? It's like, Oh my God, making fun of really how awful the television programming on BET actually is. And then, of course, all people pointing out that Obama was biracial. That's correct. He's not. He was biracial up until he was running for president, and then all of a sudden he wanted to be all in black. It's very very convenient of him, and Puck also points that out. And Brian made a donation to the channel. Very much appreciated, Brian. Every little bit helps. Every little bit, every donation helps a great deal, more than you know, especially when it comes to taking care of all the felines. Very much appreciated, Brian. And Sportsmobile says legal is not lawful. There is no law enforcement, or they would be enforcing constitutional law. Legal comes from the word legislation, not law. Police enforce policy as the word police. Yeah, and that's why I say there's a difference between a police officer and a law enforcement officer. A law enforcement officer enforces the letter of the law, but that law doesn't necessarily have to be ethical, moral, or even make any damn sense. As we shift around here. Oh, speaking of which, let me see if I can pull this up. I wanted to share an advertisement and just get some opinion here. If I can get this to work. Okay, I think I'm getting it to work. Oh no, no. Stop. Hang on a second. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, I got it now. I'm going to share something for you. Share something here. I'm going to read one more comment and then I'm going to share this and I want to get some opinions. And this is about McDonald's. And you might remember a short that I did showing a McDonald's like BLM shirt. You'll love this. Urban says, I recall the first time I told some Canadian liberal friends that Obama was not black. Oh my God, I almost had to cut ties after they called me every label in the little black book of insults. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, he's not. He's a what they used to refer to as a mulatto, a mixed race person, and that's neither here nor there. I don't think that matters at all. But yeah, he was mixed up until he ran for president. And then he decided it would be better if he pretended to be all in black. It was purely a political move. That was a bit loud, but anyways, this thing here, I want to share this if I can. Here it comes. There it is. This is a quick ad. This is a quick ad I'm going to show you. It's a McDonald's. For those of you who are listening and not able to see, it says Black and Positively Golden Scholarship, courtesy of McDonald's. Black and Positively Golden Scholarship. So I'm going to play it for you. Hopefully it's not too loud. Maybe I can turn it down a little bit here. It's not going to talk, I don't think, but it's going to show you, and I'll read it out. Ugh. There's $1 million in HBCU scholarships, but time is almost up. Get the culture, and they show an image, a cartoon image of a black male and a black female wearing what looks like, or the female looks like, I don't know what she's wearing there. Get the love. Did we mention the $1 million in scholarships? Black and Positively Golden Scholarship. Apply by March 27th. Thorogood Marshall College Fund, where education pays off. So, are you suggesting McDonald's, asking a question here, that you have to have a separate black scholarship fund? So if I'm black and I work for McDonald's, I can't apply for your regular scholarship fund that you already have? because they already have a scholarship fund. And my understanding is any employee can apply for it if they qualify. To have a separate scholarship for people that are of a specific color group is to imply that they would not be eligible for the other scholarship, correct? Why do they need a separate one just for Black people? Except for the purpose of putting on a show, except for pandering, except for patting themselves on the back. Oh, see, Freudian slip. Patting themselves on the back, I meant to say. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Puck says I got 30 days in Facebook jail for posting that Obama is a mole. Really? I got banned on Facebook for who remembers why I got in trouble on Facebook and I got suspended. See if anybody's paying attention. Somebody knows. Why did I get suspended on Facebook? And the lieutenant says, true education has become indoctrination and they don't teach anything useful or helpful. No, they don't. And really could do with less dysgenics in every aspect of daily life. Don't care what you look like. A violent animal is a violent animal regardless of appearance. And Monkey says, where's the positively golden race skin color? I don't know. Maybe that would be proto-human. I don't know if there's any living examples of so-called proto-human. It's not like a dog, you know, a wolf is proto-dog, or a coyote. It could be considered proto-dog. But proto-human, you can only guess. You take the lightest colored person on Earth and the darkest colored person on Earth, and you narrow the spectrum until you get to the center, and that should be proto-human. Maybe that's the golden human. I don't know. And the lieutenant is also sick of the separate women-only scholarships. Yeah. And All People says there was never this pandering nonsense in the U.S. or the rest of the Western world until migration reform brought it in. And then the lieutenant says they act like the same shit is available to you when it is not. Yeah. As we catch up some of these comments here, there's that pulled up a lot. That pulled out a lot of ire, I guess, because this doesn't make any sense to me. They already have scholarship programs that everyone is eligible for. Why do you need to showcase one particular group? Urban says it's too bad Spike Lee was swallowed up by the race cult. One of his early films, Do the Right Thing, is a visionary film about American race relations. It is just as relevant today as it was in '89. Yeah, Spike Lee turned into a real piece of shit over the years. And Helder says going to college is a waste of time and money for the vast majority of degrees. And I've got a college degree, and I agree. I agree with it. And then I didn't even need it. Again, I've had several really so-called professional jobs that had degree requirements that were higher than what my degree was. And because they wanted me, wrote me an exemption. When I worked for the Juvenile Justice Authority, when I was running the YRC2 facility, the Juvenile Justice Commissioner gave me an exemption letter so that I could do the job without having the higher degree requirement. So then what the hell do I need the higher degree requirement for if I can still get the job? You see what I'm saying? The daycare, when I was the director of the daycare, same thing. My degree wasn't a requirement. The agency gave me an exemption. And Dragon says young black students would be better off working in trades or going into the military. Hey, that's most students. Absolutely. That's most students would probably be better off. My own kid went to trade school. He went to Job Corps. I've mentioned that before. And Paul Burke says, isn't that racist? Yeah, it kind of is. Monkey says something with Hulk Hogan. I think you're commenting on my why I got in trouble. Why I got in trouble. It was Randy Savage. I said Macho Man, and the algorithm mistook me for making fun of gay people. And I got suspended because that's how serious they are about protecting your feelings and not allowing you, like you're a little 5-year-old, not allowing you to discern things for yourself. Cruising says you could isolate the genes that control skin color and work backwards along each mutation to identify the original genetic sequence and skin tone. But like any science that touches race, it's taboo. It's taboo. And Urban says skin color is an adaptation of the body to maximize UV absorption and vitamin D processing. And that is true also. That is true also. People put way too much emphasis on it. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be that way. People make it a problem. People make it a problem. Or it's made into a problem for us, I should say, because who is really doing this? Activists, politicians, and the media. Activists, politicians, and the media. Your average common person on the street doesn't really care. Unless they pretend to care because they think they're going to get something out of it. Or because they're afraid to speak their mind because they're worried about what people think. And shouldn't be, because screw everybody. I wanted to go back to this. We're going to jump to New York here really quick. Something we talked about yesterday. This is a New York Post article. Fire Department Commissioner Laura Cavendish slammed after she apologizes for the pro-Trump firefighters jeering New York Attorney General Lolita James. Now, I'm going to bother to read through the whole thing, okay? I just wanted to point something out that I was thinking about and share this, all right? So here we go. Graph, and for those of you who can't see, has the photograph caught up yet? There it is. This first person sitting here, woman on the left, is Attorney General Lolita James. All right. On the right side here is Laura Kavanaugh. See this woman? Laura Kavanaugh is the commissioner of the New York City Fire Department. And the image jumped. I'm sorry. Let me try to fix this. Laura Kavanaugh, there she is again. Let me fan that. Maybe it'll hold still. There we go. Laura Kavanaugh, right there, is the commissioner of the New York City Fire Department. And there's an important lesson here. And this is why I'm looking at this. I'm not, like I said, I'm not really going to read the article. We already read it yesterday, but I was thinking about something and I wanted to touch this again. Her right here, this is everything wrong with politics. Okay? This woman is not a firefighter, has never been a firefighter, has never been a first responder of any kind, is not even from New York. She's from California. She's from California, and she's a graduate of political sciences. Her career is all political positions. She was de Blasio's assistant when he was mayor. She's worked on campaigns, like Puck points out here that she worked on the Obama campaign. Yes, she's done campaign managing. She's worked as a union representative, things like this. So she gets appointed to this position as a diversity hire with no knowledge, experience, or understanding of anything involving first responders, in particular the fire department. And somehow they expect the firefighters to have any respect for this commissioner. At least put someone in there with some experience. So even if they don't like that person, they can at least they can respect them at the very core of it because they did the job. Someone who started off on a ladder crew back in the day, worked as a firefighter for years, became the chief of his station. You see what I'm saying? Like in the old days when you used to earn your way through it instead of just finding some political graduate who bounces around from one political job to another and gets appointed, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's your diversity hire. Oh, look, first female fire chief or whatever the hell. Seriously? How can you have any respect for this? Brian says, I guess that ship from The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode that had celebrities like Spike Lee and Tom Arnold didn't reach the sun. He's still here. Oh, no. All people said she's a diversity hire, of course, because this is what they do. Helter said, this is rich. Kavanaugh used politics from her official position while insisting that firefighters should not express their opinions during her pitiful address. She can't have it both ways. Yes, she can. Yes, she can, apparently. And Michael said she sounds like a typical grifter. And then Sportsmobile said she probably knows all 99 positions. That's how she got the job. But yeah, she's not even from California. My choice, if I was appointing someone, a native New Yorker with a career in the fire department. How about that? And then like I said, all the other firefighters, even if they don't like the guy or whoever it is, at least can have some respect because they paid their dues. This woman paid no dues to these people. She worked for unions that screwed them over. She worked for politicians that screwed them over. She's not even from New York. And she's a diversity hire shoehorned into the job. Doesn't know thing one about it. Never worked as a first responder in any capacity. I mean, even if she was an EMT, firefighters are trained as EMTs. At least they could, okay, well, I can kind of understand. No, there's nothing to understand here. Monkey says it also can relate to work environment. A manager that got hired due to having a bachelor's degree is something not related to what they've done and has never worked in that particular job or sector. Yeah, you don't want to hear that. You don't trust that. It's like, what do you know about this job? Zero. Nothing. She doesn't know anything about that job. And she's pushing them. She's pushing these firefighters, giving them a hard time, threatening to fine them for having the nerve to express themselves. And like I said, they're not, they weren't on duty. I mean, I can understand if you're on duty, you have to present yourself a certain way. These people were not on duty, and they were pissed off at that district attorney. They don't like her. They don't like her. They don't trust her. Dragon says society could have made great technological and economic leaps, but it hasn't because DEI and HR folks have presented prospective, talented interviewees from getting the job. Yeah, that's true. And All People says double standards are the way of the left. Absolutely. Absolutely. And one here from Fluke Man, it says, think there's a video head of Bureau Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives didn't know what a magazine or a drum was. Yeah, that's perfect. That is perfect. That's like all these sheriffs, a lot of these sheriff's positions now, even elected, not just appointed, but elective sheriff's positions. Look at the races for the sheriff of major cities like Los Angeles or San Francisco. None of those guys have experience in law enforcement. What are they doing? But they'll get the job. They'll get the job, unfortunately. But with that, we are getting close to the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and start signing off. Again, this is Coffee Talk. You are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and that is at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University on YouTube, simultaneously broadcasting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most of the time, except for tomorrow, where I will broadcast earlier in the day, probably at 10 or 11. I'll see how it looks. Also, at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And special thanks to Brian today, who made a donation to the channel. Always helpful, very much appreciated. And thanks again to everyone who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will see you